Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for this week ahead. And of course, before we get started, I did want to talk about some astrological stuff going on today. This week. Today is just an easygoing day as we head towards the full moon in Pisces. And we are also heading to Mercury retrograde in Libra. It's going to be making its retrograde movement through the sky. It'll look to us like it's going backwards, but don't worry, Mercury is not actually going reverse in its orbit. It's just an optical thing from our perspective here on Earth. But it does mean that we're going to see some shifts in communication. We're going to be seeing a lot of miscommunication sometimes. I would say that this is definitely an opportunity for us to slow down, to think before we speak, and certainly to think before we act. I think that this full moon in Pisces is going to be very emotional. Emotions are going to be running, I won't say high, but the water is going to be deep, right? The water is going to be deep. We're going to be feeling a connection to our greater sense of joy, our sense of purpose, perhaps a deeper relationship to our dreams. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us over the weekend will be experiencing some very interesting dreams. So be sure that you have your dream journal out if you do that, or if that's a practice that you enjoy, because I think that's going to be really important for this week coming. I have a feeling that the conjunction of the Mercury retrograde in Libra and the full moon in Pisces is going to bring about a refocusing so that we can look into ourselves, understand our emotions better, and then utilize the emotions that we find to create better balance in our work day, in our lives, and in our personal relationships as well. So there's going to be a lot of reformatting, I'm seeing, a lot of reformatting of our emotional bodies, reformatting of our emotional boundaries, and learning to have better awareness around how we spend our time. I think that's going to be really important as well, because Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Libra is ruled by Venus. So there's a lot about our dreams, our methods of expansion, and how we utilize our dreams, our desires, our fulfillment to bring greater happiness to our hearts, right? Hence the Venus and Jupiter energy conjoining. This is going to be very interesting. So let's see. Well, hello. this is you only get this in New York, you know. And maybe Puerto Rico and other Spanish-speaking countries. You get my point. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the song that came to mind. So for those of you who are really into Lord of the Rings, like myself, I was singing a variation of Namarie, which means farewell or be well, and it's in Quenya, it's all like Elvish, all kinds of stuff. You get the point. But the idea about that song is that it's connected to this lament. It's a lamentation for something that was lost, or for something that can no longer be regained, right? In Portuguese, the word is saudade, which is this feeling of a longing for something that can no longer be. So I wouldn't be surprised if this week, with the full moon in Pisces, we're going to be experiencing some resurging of grief, or a processing of our emotions around something that we may have lost in the past, whether that may be friendships or friendships or missed opportunities. I'm also getting the sense of like partnerships that may not have worked out in the ways that we had hoped for them to work out. It's kind of that energy, right? We may be experiencing a reawakening of those emotions. Now, that doesn't mean that the wound is opened again, right? Sometimes we get phantom pains. Sometimes, even though we may have a scar and we may have already healed from the emotional wounding that we experienced, it doesn't mean that we can't revisit those pains or we can't revisit those emotions. And sometimes that is necessary, because those emotions are a part of our experience. They are in the past, and they no longer will affect us in the same way that they had in the present when we were experiencing them at that time. But when we allow them to pass through, they may teach us something. They may remind us of an inner strength that we discovered. We may be reminded of, perhaps, we may even look at it differently, right? Sometimes we have experiences in the past that were not always pleasant, but looking back, retrospect offers a different perspective. So does time. Time offers a different perspective, because we are able to heal, to look over something differently, to understand what we can gain from it, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this week we may be revisiting those emotions, revisiting certain elements of our emotional body that we may not have touched for some time. And it also, the song Namarie also means like farewell, as I mentioned, literally be well. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a greater emphasis this week on wellness, wholeness, on feelings of completeness, right? Taking an opportunity to re-evaluate our boundaries, like I was mentioning earlier, and also giving ourselves the opportunity to use time to our advantage. I feel that, or at least I hear a lot often, especially here in the city or in places where it's very fast-paced, it almost feels like we're at a race against time, or we feel as if we're running so fast to a destination that we forget the path that we're taking, right? And so the energy that I'm feeling is taking time, taking an opportunity, using time, knowing that it's on your side, rather than fighting against time or fighting to make up for time. It feels like that. So let's see what the runes have to say, because that was just a preliminary meditation as I was shuffling the runes. But I feel called to start here and then go outward, because there's some energies that are around us that, there are some energies that are around us that may be influencing our interior life, or influencing our exterior life. And we are being encouraged to find more strength in our inner world, to find respite in our inner world. So some of us may be having a lot of trouble when it comes to work, and I don't mean like trouble in a bad way. I mean just like perhaps it may be just very busy, or perhaps you may be in a transition space, a transitional or liminal space at this time when it comes to finances, or when it comes to even romantic partnerships, whatever that may be, right? And this time period is just a lot of things going on. Maybe over socializing, maybe overworking, maybe perhaps starting up a job again. Like I know many of us have returned to school, so that comes with its own set of stress, right? Its own set of relationships that can be both beneficial and detrimental to our inner mental state, and our inner emotional state. So I see here we have Isa, which is the rune of ice. And then we also have Wunyo, which is the rune of joy. And I really like this, actually, because the combination of Isa and Wunyo, for some may look at that and we can interpret it as a freezing of joy. So perhaps like the joy of summer has passed and we're entering into the fall season, and it's school time and back to work and back to school and back to all these things that we may have to focus on, whereas we really just want to be on a beach somewhere. Right? I could interpret it like that, but I'm feeling more called to interpret it as ice is such a unique element, right? Because it's water as it freezes, right? Of course. But as it freezes, it becomes more crystalline, and its crystalline structure allows water, as it turns to ice, to expand, right? It's one of the only things, or one of the few things in this world that expands when it becomes a solid, right? When it moves from liquid into a solid state. So I find that so beautiful because the ice to me represents like pushing against the boundaries that you have perhaps put yourself in. Let's say, pushing past your comfort zone, pushing past the things that you are used to experiencing, but daring to try something new, right? And allowing this expansion to make more room for joy in your life. So I wouldn't be surprised if over the weekend we will be experiencing new opportunities, new relationships, new experiences. Perhaps you decided to try out a new class, or you wanted to try something new, or you may be meeting someone new, or you're going into like a new social event or social gathering over the weekend, and that's going to push you out of your comfort zone, and that's going to make more room for joy. And I think that that's a calling from the runes to cultivate inner happiness, to cultivate an inner sense of peace. And sometimes that means being silent, that means being still, that means being cool as ice, right? I also see here Thurisas, which has fallen on its side. Thurisas is the rune of Thor, so for those of you who are connected to Thor, that may be a sign for you. Then I have Fehu also in Merkstaff position in reverse, which is one of the runes associated with Freya. So again, Freya, if those of you who connect with her, that may be a sign for you as well. And then we have Dagas, which is the rune of the daylight. So it feels to me that we are cultivating this inner joy while the outside world is having some interesting things going on. And I mean that to say, be advised, you may lose your keys this week. You may lose your card key, or perhaps your dorm room key, or whatever it is, right? Just be aware of your possessions and your valuables. That's just a small little aside to keep in mind. But it seems to me that there's going to be some new revelations that come in time. So with the retrograde energy coming in, I feel like we're going to be experiencing a slowdown of our interior experiences, so that we can look at our emotions even though the outside world is moving very quickly. I wouldn't be surprised also if it may be the reverse for some people, where our inner life may have a lot of turbulence and our outer life kind of slows down as we settle into the new work environment or the new school environment, whatever that may be, right? Or just the new experiences that we may be having, because some of us may be experiencing new joy in relationships. Okay, so I had to pause for a moment because my camera only allows for 15 minutes. So every 15 minutes I usually have to pause and restart it. And I felt called to talk a little bit more about what's going on this weekend and into next week, because there are a lot of new experiences. So like I said, with Thurisas on its side, Thurisas is the rune of the masculine energy, and masculinity has nothing to do with, the sexual dynamics or gender dynamics. When I speak of masculinity, I speak more of the electric principle in life, the thing that vivifies, the thing that kind of shocks and moves through spaces very quickly, right? It's an active force rather than a magnetic force, right? But they're both active in their own right. But I'm sure you get what I'm saying. So this more electric energy in the reverse, to me, feels like, again, we're being asked to slow down a little bit, to find this ice, to find this coolness, this space of inner peace. Because with the retrograde, with the full moon over the weekend, with all of these new things happening all at once, we may be inclined to speak faster than our mind allows itself to think. We may jump into a situation without taking an opportunity to reflect on why we're in it, right? We may be too quick to judge someone or even ourselves before we take the opportunity to really consider the circumstances that brought that person or ourselves into the circumstance that we are in today, right? So it feels to me that this slowing down energy, because Thurisas, with its Merkstaff position in reverse, the electricity can not only bring light, right, and bring awareness or all that fun stuff, but the electricity can also burn. It can also shock us. It can also be detrimental. So it feels to me that we have to slow down, to think before we speak, think before we act, feel before we judge, right? Feel our energy first. What does this situation feel like? Why am I in this job position? What is this, like if I'm in a new social circumstance, how do I feel about these people? What do they make me feel when I'm in this space? Like how is this energy reflecting in my body, right? Our body is always speaking to us. And with Fehu in reverse, in Merkstaff, this to me represents a loss of abundance in some regard. Now, I usually see Fehu in Merkstaff as literal loss of things. It can be the loss of a small item. It could be the loss of our keys. It could be, misplacing our phone, misplacing our earbuds, whatever it is. But it does often speak of a misplacement of energy or a misplacement of things, right? So we're going to be asked again to be very cognizant of the energies coming up for us, especially when it comes to conversation, relating to someone else, talking about things that we need to talk about, right? So the words that I heard was don't lash your tongue, or don't let your tongue what's the word, a silver tongue, right, that can also be a silver sword. Don't let it cut the other people or people around you. Use it to cut through the fog, or cut through things that prevent clarity in one's life. But be wary of your words sometimes cutting not only yourself but others as well. And then Dagas in this position, I always see Dagas when it comes out on its side, it looks like an hourglass. So again, taking time. The sun will always rise. It just depends on the season, whether it will rise early or whether it will rise late. So give yourself time to feel through things this coming weekend and into the week ahead. So I hope that resonates for you guys. I have another little rune that leapt on my lap and it was Urus. So Urus really relates to the physical body, and so I would suggest for many of you to please take care of your physical body on top of your emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies as well. But there seems to be a greater emphasis on one's emotional relationship or the psychosomatic connection to your body. So be cognizant of your body. Please eat well. Please drink water. Please sleep. I feel like some of you may have been having a tough time sleeping recently. So do take some opportunity to do relaxing exercises, to let the shoulders fall, to allow the tongue to fall from the roof of the mouth and to rest on the palate, right? To let the energy flow out of you, right? Because we're going to be moving into some very interesting astrological energies in the week ahead. So, hope that resonates. If you like this little video, please like and subscribe below. I hope you guys enjoy it. I really love sharing my practice with you, and I really do hope it helps you guys. And of course, if the reading didn't resonate for you, please don't worry about it. There are so many wonderful readers on YouTube, so many wonderful people who do the runes, who do tarot, who do all this fun stuff. And, please check their stuff out. I'm sure you're going to love it. Or you'll definitely find the message you're looking for. So I'll see you guys next week here on the channel. I'm really excited to continue. It feels good. And I hope it resonated for you guys. And I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.